Hello friends, welcome to the channel UPSC NDA CDS Success Forum. Now in my previous video I did discuss about how the constitution can be amended and what is the procedure which is laid down in the Constitution of India for the amendment of the constitution. In fact, as already I discussed with you, the process or the procedure of amendment of the constitution is borrowed from the South African constitution, and the procedure for the amendment of the constitution is laid down in the article 368 part 20 of the Indian constitution. Now what is the exact procedure that is being followed whenever the parliament decide to, or whenever the parliament proposes to amend the constitution? Now, the first point that you need to understand from this chapter, you get the questions for the assertion based questions. Now, you need to understand how the constitution can be amended, what is the procedure that is laid down in the constitution for its amendment. Number one, an amendment of the constitution can be initiated only by the introduction of a bill for the purpose in the either house of the parliament. That means it is not mandatory that the amendment bill should be produced only in a particular house. It can be presented, it can be produced in the, or it can be introduced in the house of Lok Sabha, what we call it as a Lok Sabha, or the Rajya Sabha. That means in either house of the parliament. As we know, recently there was a question in NDA examination, from which country we have borrowed the concept of parliamentary democracy. We have borrowed the procedure or the concept of parliamentary form of government from the British Constitution. Now British Constitution or the British Parliament, they too have the two houses, what we call it the House of Lords and the House of Commons. Similarly, in our country, we do have the House of, what we call it, the Council of States or Rajya Sabha or Lok Sabha, that is the House of the People. So Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, the bill can be introduced as far as the bill related to the amendment of the constitution can be produced in either house of the parliament. But make it a point, under no circumstances bill can be produced related to the amendment of the constitution in the state legislature. That means state governments. The state government do not have any right, they do not have any role to play as far as the amendment of the constitution is concerned. The next one, it is not mandatory, it is not necessary that the bill must be introduced by a minister. It can be introduced by the private member also. Here the private member means the members of the parliament who are not the part of the government or who are not the part of the ruling party, or the ministers. So anyone who is the member of the parliament, he has the authority, he has the special power to introduce the constitutional amendment bill in the parliament of the country. And there is no requirement of any prior permission from the President of India for presenting or introducing the constitutional amendment bill in the parliament. The next one is, the bill must be passed in each house by a special majority. Now in the subsequent videos I shall be discussing what are the various ways, what are the various ways and means that the bills can be passed, whether it is required a simple majority, a special majority, or the bill that has to be ratified by the state legislature also. That shall be discussed in the separate video. Now here, in the third point, you need to understand that whenever a bill is presented in the parliament or introduced in the parliament, each house of the parliament, they must pass a bill with a special majority, and the majority of the two-third members, the two-third members of the, it may be Lok Sabha, it may be Rajya Sabha, they should vote in favor of the bill with the special majority of two-third majority. And those who are present, it's not like that, suppose the Lok Sabha strength is to 545, Rajya Sabha strength is 250, but all must be present in the at the time of the passage of the bill. It is not necessary. Whosoever is present, sometimes it may be some 300 members are present in the Lok Sabha. So out of that 300, some two-third members of the parliament, they must vote in favor of the introduction of the constitutional amendment bill, and then only once it is passed by a particular house, it is sent to the next house for the passage of the bill. And each house, it has to be, each house must ratify it, each house must pass the bill. In case of disagreement, one more question. There is no special provision of the joint sitting of the parliament for the deliberation and the passage of the bill. Deliberation means here discussion. In certain cases there is a provision, but as far as the constitutional amendment is concerned, there is no procedure that is laid down in the Constitution of India that the joint session of the parliament can be called and the bill will be passed as a constitutional amendment. There is no special provision for that. This point it must be kept in your mind, that there is no separate provision that is being mentioned in the Constitution of India, that a joint sitting of the parliament wherein Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha will sit together and they will pass the particular constitutional amendment bill. No, it's not like that. Each house must pass it separately. Now, if the bill seeks to amend the federal provisions, now we say India is a federal country. Why do we call it as a federal? The federal structure of the country is borrowed from Canadian Constitution, but federal structure with the strong center, again it is borrowed from the Canadian Constitution. Now, since the powers are separated between the state government and the central government, what we call it as the decentralization of the powers. And if at all the bill is related, the constitutional amendment bill is related to a particular state, then it must be ratified by the legislature of half of the state by a simple majority. That means if it is affecting the several states, all the states must pass that bill in that particular legislative assembly, and then only the bill can be amended as the constitutional amendment in the constitution. And once the bill is passed, right, when both the houses they pass the constitutional amendment bill, then it is forwarded to the President of India for his signature or for his assent. And once the President gives his assent, the bill becomes the constitutional amendment and it is endorsed in the Constitution of India. So this is the normal procedure which is followed as far as the constitutional amendment of the constitutional amendment in India is concerned. And one more thing, again this question it comes for the examination. The President does not have any right to withhold. The President does not have any right to withhold the bill, or he can neither withhold or his assent to the bill nor return the bill for the reconsideration of the parliament. That means the President has no role to play whenever the constitutional amendment bill is passed by the parliament. The President is bound to assent the bill. He does not have any right to withhold. Even then, even he cannot send it back to the parliament for the reconsideration. He cannot say कि भाई ये कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल बिल से मैं सहमत नहीं हूँ, मैं इसके ऊपर साइन नहीं करता हूँ, ये क्लॉज आप हटा दीजिए, then only I will sign it. The President cannot do it. There is no provision in the Constitution. Once the Parliament passes the constitutional amendment bill, the President has to sign it. And the moment President signs it or gives his assent to the bill, it becomes the Constitutional Amendment Act, and the Constitution stands amended in accordance with the terms of the Act, and it is endorsed and included in the Constitution. This is the normal procedure that is being adopted as far as the constitutional amendment procedure or the provision is concerned in our country. And I hope the concept of the amendment of the Constitution, the introductory part of the amendment of the Constitution is very clear to you. And if you look at the previous year question, whether it is CDS examination or NDA examination, you will find that many questions had appeared from this, under which in which year this amendment was done, what does the 42nd amendment stand for, 44th amendment stand for, 86th amendment stands for. All these questions, it comes in the examination, and these questions are related to the amendment of the Indian Constitution. I hope you like the video, and the concept of the amendment of the Constitution are very clear. If you like it, please share it, like it. Thank you very much for watching this video. Thanks. I shall be uploading the next videos related what were the previous questions that had come in the examination related to the various amendments that were carried forward, that were undertaken by the Parliament of India, and how it is implemented and how it is affecting the country. And whenever it is required, the Parliament has the authority to make the changes in the Constitution with the passage of the time and in order to keep pace with the changing times. Thank you very much.